Thank you all for joining us today on another Stay Hustling podcast episode. Today we have a very special guest, a very skilled soccer player, I'd like to say, that I've seen with my own eyes. Oscar Velasquez, man. Thank you for joining us today, bro.
Applause, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
And as always, my co-host, Hera. Hey, man, let's get this started. How did the dream of playing soccer for you start?
It honestly started with my older brother. I remember seeing him practice with his team, and I was maybe about 7, 8 years old, and just seeing him play, I felt like kind of inspired me, and so I would kick the ball around. And eventually, one of the parents who had a daughter who played on a team named Galaxy saw me kicking the ball around, and he had asked me if I was interested in playing the game, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. So I went and I did my first practice. I didn't really like it all that much because the coach was a little more on the aggressive side of things. Like, he was very really strict, and I wasn't really used to it at that point. And so during the first practice, I didn't like it. And then we had a game that week, and I ended up scoring a goal. And I kind of saw the parents' reaction, and I saw that they were applauding, and I really liked the attention. And after that, I kind of just took over, and I kind of kept going with it. So
oh yeah, bro.
Yeah.
How old were you at that time?
I was about, I want to say, like closer to eight and a half.
And you already had that goal and dream, you already had that in mind. What age did you actually start taking it seriously? Like, you know what, this is what I want to do.
I want to say closer, like in high school for sure. I ended up doing this tryout called Sueño MLS, and it was a tryout where a couple thousand players from different parts of the country kind of get together and they compete against each other. And I ended up going to LA, and I was fortunate enough to make it to the top 5 for the selection of that in LA.
Out of
top
1,000
5
people?
Yeah.
Out of 1,000 people, top 5.
It was I want to say it was a couple thousand. I'm not exactly sure how many it was,
That's
but
crazy.
I think what helped me out too was the age that I was at the time. I was 14 years old, and I was competing against kids that were 4, 5, 6 years older than me. So I think me being 14 years old and me being looking comfortable on the field and being confident, I feel like helped out quite a bit, and it stood out. And I think that's what helped me out the most for sure.
You know what's so crazy is, like, that's not the first time I ever heard of Sueño MLS. I did always hear, like, oh, it's a scam, don't do it, or people saying, like, this isn't the route to go. But now I see why they said it. It's because there was a ratio 5 to almost 1,000 people, and I'm glad to hear that you're one of that got chose. So that's probably one of, like, the
Alianza's on the same boat, isn't it? Like, kind of like on the same route.
Yeah, it's similar to it. I actually know quite a bit of people that have done it, and it's a similar process. And I feel like it's cool because it gives a lot of players the opportunity to kind of expose their skills, especially for the ones that don't have very much support from the financial side of things. So I think that's why we try to take advantage of that as much as we could.
And they hope with the exposure, I assume, as well too.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually did it twice. I did it at 14, and then I went and did it again, I think at 16 or 15 and a half. And the second time was when it really changed my life, because the first time I got some good exposure with LA Galaxy. The second time around I did it with Chivas USA.
So they invited you to LA Galaxy, or how did that work?
So the LA Galaxy was more like that. They saw what I did, and they really liked how I played, and they just kind of gave me some feedback. And they were like, "Oh, we'll just keep working, and we'll see how things play out from here on out." And after that, I kind of just kept practicing. That's when things started to become a bit more serious for me. I would spend a lot more hours practicing on my own craft, and it'd be maybe, like I said, a year and a half until I ended up doing it again, and I went over to Chivas USA, and that's when things really changed for me at like 17, 16 and a half.
So how was that decision, man? You're 16 and a half, and I assume you lived out here in Vegas, right? And you get told, hey, do you want to come out to, I believe it's Chicago, right? Or where was Chivas USA at the time?
Chivas USA was actually in LA too.
In LA,
yeah,
too,
it was in LA.
Time. Wow.
Yeah.
My apologies. And how was that? Should I go or not go? What was that decision like? Was it easy? Was it hard? I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, but people don't understand that it could be a big decision at times, right?
It was, bro. It was a big, big decision. And at the time, I guess you can say I was thinking a bit more selfishly because I was I was so driven to chase my dreams, right? I wanted to kind of go and become a professional soccer player. That was really my only drive at that point. And I ended up coming to the conclusion where I'm like, you know what? I really have to, because it was going into my senior year. I'm like, I got to give up prom. I got to give up me seeing my younger brothers grow up, me being with my wife, my now wife, and just go on my own. And I ended up moving to LA to go and live with cousins. So that was like a huge, huge move for me. And I feel like it was one of the toughest things too, because all I knew was Vegas, right? And moving out at 16, 17 years old, I was like, it was so surreal. But I think once I got started with the training and I saw that I had a lot of work to do, that's what kept me motivated, is seeing how much work I needed to work on to get to the level that that the team that I was going to be playing with.
What made you realize that, like, hey, I need to work harder? You know, you just got done getting picked by one of the top scouts. What made you realize, like, oh, are these kids going harder than me? What was it that made you realize you needed to step up your game?
I felt like when I was playing, I think when the pressure would come, I just felt like my decisions weren't fast enough. I felt like I was just a step behind a lot of players. Like, I felt like I wasn't thinking fast enough. My feet weren't playing fast enough. And I'm like, well, I got to start putting a lot of time into just me one-on-one with the ball and just really get to know, like, myself and what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I think once I started figuring that out, the more I practiced, the more I figured it out. With what my strengths and weaknesses were. And so once I really started to figure out what my strengths were, I think that really started to show out. I think it only took me about 6 to 8 games before I was kind of fortunate. One of the players on the starting 11 ended up getting hurt.
Oh, okay.
So I was the next man up, and that next game I ended up starting and I ended up playing the first half. And after that first half, I remember the coach using me as an example. He was like, you know what, I really like this guy. Like, and he was kind of telling the whole team during our halftime talk that we should all kind of like play the same as this, like with the same intensity. And I wasn't doing too well technically, but man, I was busting my ass off. Like, I was that fucking guy where I was just like trying to get after every single ball. Like, even if it wasn't like close to me, I'd fucking just, try and help out as best as like. And I think that's what really showed him out. Like, this guy really wants it. And so after that, like, I kept starting for as long as he was there. The guys, and I remember it. I remember that coach specifically because he is honestly what really kept pushing me and what really kept giving me those years of wanting to play professionally. And I was like, it helped out a lot being with him.
It's crazy how a person can go ahead and have a big play in your life, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this coach in particular did that for you, And how long did that go for? Like, how long did you have that coach being your mentor for? How long was he there to make sure that you were going the right path?
Man, that stuff was actually really short-lived, unfortunately, because the season started like in August. And so I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory with that. So I went in as a junior going into my senior year that summer. And I was just about to start high school. And the week before my senior year started, I went to this tryout because they had invited me after I had done the whole sueño molesting. And he's like, come and do a tryout. I want to see how you play with these other kids. And it was like, I think it was like 40 to 50 kids then. And it was a 2-day tryout. So I went one day, came back, went the second day. He's like, all right, it's going to be a week until we let you guys know what the results are. And I told him, I'm like, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't have a week. I gotta find out because then I have to make some moves back in Vegas to come to school in LA. And so I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna go talk to him and tell him myself, like, I need to know now, so
that's crazy.
His name is Dan Couchman. The coach his name is Dan Couchman, and right now he's coaching, he's assisting the first team in LA Galaxy. So I keep up with them now. So awesome. It's pretty cool. That's awesome. So I'll go up to him and I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry, but I'm from Vegas, I need to know what's going on. And he didn't take too long before he told me, he's like, you made the team. And I'm like, damn. As soon as he told me, bro, I'm like,
you knew what you were going for.
Yeah, as soon as he told me, bro, I was like, damn, this all it just changed so much, and I was like, I just didn't know how to go about it, and so I ended up going and getting all that situated. I went back home. I ended up signing up for online school, and that all really changed for me. And then I ended up moving to LA that next week, and I started training with the team. And so then we go back into that story where I ended up starting again, and it took me 6 to 8 games. And so he was my coach for a good maybe from August to about January. And it's crazy because something happened with the administration to where they ended up taking out a lot of coaches, the directors, and that kind of stuff. They ended up wiping them out, and
like the whole like your mentor and your coach that made you hungry, they wiped them out.
Yeah, and the crazy part about that is I was already a couple games in, and they have this winter showcase in December that happened in Florida. I don't know if it still happens, but at that time it was a pretty big tournament, and so we had flown to Florida, and we played against DC United. I think we played against Chicago Fire, and there was a couple MLS teams that we played against, and I started every single game and played 90 minutes of every single game.
That's
so
crazy.
He really
he believed in you.
Since that game where I just worked my ass off, he believed in me. And so that flight back, when we were coming back from Florida, I'm like walking by him, and he sees me as I'm walking back to the airplane. To my seat. He's like, hey, once you get settled, he's like, come up here and I want to talk to you a little bit. And I'm like, for sure. So once we get settled, I go up there and I'm like, hey, what's up, Danny? You wanted to talk to me? He's like, yep. He's like, I just want to let you know. He's like, good things are coming for you. He's like, when we get back, he's like, I just want you to get ready and stay ready, because he's like, we're thinking about getting you to train with the first team.
Damn.
Yeah. So
how did it feel when you heard the first team?
That same feeling that I felt when he told me that I made it with Chivas USA's like academy team was the same exact feeling, just 100 times crazier, because training with the first team is a whole that's what I was working towards.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah, that's what I was working towards. And so to me, I was excited. I got off the plane, and we had 2 weeks off after that. So as soon as I landed, I drove right back to Vegas to come tell my mom, my dad, my brothers about the whole thing that went down. And I'm like, I'm so excited. And so those 2 weeks passed, and we come back. I come back to LA, and it's a new coach. And I'm like,
wait, what?
Yeah,
they got rid of the old coach.
They got rid of him, bro. The guy who had trusted in me, and the guy who got me in, and all that.
They wiped them out.
They kept the assistant, which assistant really liked. So he was kind of pushing for me too to kind of go in there too. But at that point, it was a little bit more like, I guess,
the big dog.
Yeah, the big dog. Yeah, and that's the thing. Dan Kalishman, the one who was my coach, he had a big say in what was going down, and so I feel like that's what made it tough. It's just starting from scratch again.
Oh, so what happened when you got that new coach?
Well, it was like starting from zero again. I have to impress a whole new coach. I have to kind of adapt to what he's doing now, and he liked me. I want to say he liked me for like the first maybe month and a half, and then we weren't getting the results. And after that, it was a struggle to try and get back in the starting team, because he had brought maybe about 6 to 8 new players, and they were ballers.
Yeah, basically a full squad. He just brought with him out of the blue and replenished the team that you've been used to.
Yeah, and I mean, it was cool too, because I got to see some really good players. Because the 6 to 8 players that he brought, were some ballers. Like there were some really good players, and so it was cool. Like I felt like that was a hump in my career that I had to get over, and I had to kind of find a way to maneuver myself to make myself better, not only as a player but as a person, because that was one thing that really messed with me mentally. I'm like asking myself, I was like on a high for like a good 4 or 5 months, and then it just going back down in like a matter of like a month and a half to 2 months. So I'm like, how do I kind of get over this? What can I do? And so I kept working. I kept doing what I can do, doing what I can control, and I felt like as I started doing that, I felt like I started feeling a little bit more better about myself. Talking to family, obviously, seeing them on the weekends, and
made you feel better overall, right?
Yeah, for sure. I made the biggest difference. Because I try and focus on the things that I can control, and I felt like I had to learn that at a really young age, especially kind of me being on my own. The things I couldn't control are the things that I kind of just put away. Like, I'm like, you know what? If they don't like me, then they don't like me. I'm gonna be who I can be. As a player and as a person, because being a coach, right? I feel like I've been a coach for some time now as well, and sometimes personalities can play into that as well. Like,
Okay.
like just like the way a player is, you know, like do I want that kind of person on my team? Like, because that person can affect other players. Yeah,
and that pertains in life, right?
For sure.
Not just inside of the athletic point of view, right? They could hang out of playing soccer or whatever, and it could affect that person itself. And I feel like you mentioning you knew how to control what you can only control, right? That's big, man. You know, a lot of times we don't know how to do that. We don't know how to maneuver that. And I think that's honestly so big how we're able to learn that factor, but also we have to get there somehow. And yeah, man, no, that's awesome, man. And going back to you going into your next step, what happened after the Chivas USA thing?
So after Chivas USA, I actually ended up staying another year. And throughout my time at Chivas USA, I had a couple colleges who were interested in me, and I felt like I spent a lot of time away from home. And I'm big on family. Like, I love being around my family. I've got 5 brothers, and obviously having my girlfriend around, my parents, and friends, like, they all played a role in kind of forming the kind of person I am now. So I'm like, you know what, I seen all these offers, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to go anywhere else but home anymore. Like, I feel like I want to go back to Vegas and play in front of the friends and family that I have back in Vegas. So I ended up going to UNLV after.
Damn.
Yeah,
you had a lot of big schools looking.
Yeah, I had a couple interests. I had some East Coast colleges. I had Bakersfield that was interested. I had Cal State Dominguez Hills, I think, was another one. I remember talking to Santa Barbara for a little bit, but it wasn't anything. It was kind of just a little communication between me and the head coach at the time. And that was it. And I decided to go with UNLV. And I really didn't think too much.
Big still, though. You know,
yeah.
UNLV's big. Yeah.
So I really didn't think too much. Like, I saw these offers, but I saw more of the fact that I wanted to come back home and play in Vegas and still play at a pretty high level. So that's kind of why I decided to come back to Vegas and just play my 4 years here in Vegas.
Now, how did you get your foot in the door at UNLV? Did you have that offer as well?
So actually they had took notice in me of me in high school. So I was a junior in high school, and they had seen me play. They saw that statistics wise, I felt like I was doing pretty good for myself, enough to get noticed. And so I felt like once I started getting those statistics up, I started to get a bit more attention. And then the assistant came, then the head coach at UNLV came, and since then, like, I felt like they really saw they liked who I was at the time, and they liked who I became even throughout the process of being at Chivas USA. So I think once I told them that I was done playing academy and I was looking to play college ball, it was a no-brainer for them. They kind of told me they were interested, and I told them I had like the mutual interest too. And after that, I mean, we just ended up coming into the agreement of coming back home and playing with UNLV.
Yeah, that's lit, bro. You know, a lot of time people don't have that luxury, right? So that was awesome that you were able to take advantage of that. What was your best experience in UNLV with the team?
Man, there was a lot of good friends there, man. I feel like the people who I played with, I think that was what the biggest thing was for me. Like, I love the people who I played with. I think my teammates were the biggest part of me enjoying that process. But I think my most memorable time there was I think my freshman year, because I went in as a freshman and everything was so new, and we won the conference tournament. And I think UNLV, it had been for sure over 10 years since they had won anything like that. So for me to be a freshman and going in there and winning the conference tournament and then playing in the national tournament,
that's crazy.
That was pretty cool. But then we won it again my junior year, and that was also a very memorable moment because we went into the national tournament again, and we won that first round. And I had scored the winning PK that in that first round against.
That's crazy. I'm gonna have to add that as a clip.
Yeah, which I forget the school. It was a school in San Diego. I couldn't tell you exactly what they're called because there's so many schools in San Diego. But after that, we ended up getting like a private jet from like San Diego to Denver because we were playing the University of Denver, and that experience was crazy, man. It just felt so surreal. Like, it's what you see in movies, you know, like just being like treated like high class, you know, and that kind of stuff. So it was really surreal, kind of seeing what what it is to be playing at a high level and be respected at a high level as an athlete, as a professional, because I had never experienced something like that. So it was pretty dope.
That's lit, bro. Vegas, right? We're speaking about Vegas. V being in Vegas, you see a lot of times that some athletes go ahead and start doing the wrong things out here. Did that ever play a role at your school, or was everyone really on the same level and focus? Did you ever see talent was good but outworked the other people? Because Vegas is one of those spots where you see everything, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think we had a really good group of guys. I feel like it was obviously the opportunity for us to go out and do crazy shit was there. Obviously the alcohol, the drugs, the parties, and that kind of stuff. But I think we had a really good group of guys. There were a lot of the guys were very focused. A lot of them were determined to kind of end up in a situation where they felt comfortable in. And a lot of the guys who I played with ended up playing professionally. We had a handful of guys that ended up going and playing professional. So that just goes to show where their focus was at. It wasn't too much on the drugs. It wasn't too much on the alcohol or the partying. Yeah. So it was actually a pretty good group of guys. And so I would say maybe if it's another group of guys, maybe it is easier for them to kind of get sidetracked with the whole partying and all that. Yeah. But our group of guys was definitely just really focused on the goal of wanting to be the best team that we could possibly be.
That's awesome, bro. You don't really see that nowadays. You see people that are focused on the fame, the money. They want the attractions, and I feel like everyone on that team was probably focused on.
Yeah, now don't get me wrong. We did party. We did drink here and there, and it was some good. We had some really, really, really good times, but nothing to the point where we let it become a factor in our game. Like nothing to the point where we're going and partying the day before and just getting fucked up and then showing up the next day, and getting crazy. Yeah. Like it was like, no, we knew we had a game on Saturday. We wouldn't go out Friday. We wouldn't go out Thursday. We'd take care of ourselves. Now, if we won that game, then for sure, it was about to be lit that night. If we lost, we were not throwing no parties. So I think it was, we had a very good balance on that team for sure. We had a very good group of guys who knew how to balance their school just as much as they're having fun, just as much as playing soccer, So I think it was a very, very good group of guys. And like I said, I that's one of my one of the biggest takes I take away from being with the team is that it was a good group of dudes. So and I still talk to a lot of them to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You said a lot of them play professional level now.
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing that made you fall in love with the process of soccer? Throughout your whole thing, what was the process like for you?
In the beginning, I want to say I focused a lot on me having a lot of the attention because I felt like I was a kid and I knew I was good at the time. And one thing that kind of helped me out too is I was playing a year up, and I didn't know that until like 2 years later, where I had found out that I was playing a year up, and I'm like, damn, like I was in the illusion thinking that I was really balling all these guys when really I was playing a year up, and I was kind of cheating in a way at the time. So. Yeah. In the beginning, it was more of the fact that scoring goals, getting the attention from everybody. I felt like everybody was noticing, and they were like, "Damn, like this guy is actually really, really good." So I like that. But as I started getting into more of at the higher level of playing soccer, I really, really enjoyed the work, like the work that you have to put in to just become a better person, to become a better player. So I really understood the process and how long it takes for you to perfect a craft, and that goes into everything I do now. Like with me doing my barbering, with me doing my cosmetology now, like it can become very stressful when new things come to me. But then I think back, I'm like, well, I know I've got to put this much work in if I want to get that out. If I want to go and get better at whatever it is, I've got to put the work in. And so I feel like just the work overall, I feel like it's what I really started getting into and what started motivating me and what kind of helped me out throughout the entire process of just becoming not only who I was as a player, but and who I became now as a person.
That's awesome, bro. I love to hear this story,
Aside from soccer and all that, this guy's a good barber too.
Yes, make sure to go ahead and contact him. Fit Fades is his Instagram. We'll
yes,
make
sir.
sure to pop it up on there. But to continue with the soccer dream, right? At what point did you say, all right, this is going to start to come to an end? What time did your dream take a turn for a different dream, such as doing hairstyling and barbering? What time was that at?
Man, I want to say I ended up going and playing out in Latvia. I stayed there for a couple of months, and
Latvia?
yeah, it's near Russia.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's right by Russia. It's like a little.
I didn't know that you went overseas.
Yeah, I was out there for a little bit. I won't even say a couple months. I want to say maybe like a month and a half, and I really went out there because I really didn't have much opportunity here in Vegas. Like I was like, I'm gonna see what I can do here. So I went to a combine. They ended up suggesting me to go with this team to go play out there, and it was like a third division team. But I'm like, I really have nothing here in Vegas. I'm like, I might as well just kind of explore what's going on over there. So I ended up going over there, and I played over there for a bit, and I really got to learn how they played and really how the culture was and everything. So that was a cool experience on its own. But as I was over there, I ended up getting a couple opportunities to come back to the U.S. and get a couple tryouts. And because I had hit up a couple of friends who I know are playing on some teams. One of them, his name is Joaquin Rivas. He was playing with Tulsa. The guy's actually really successful right now. He played with the Salvadorian national team. Right now he's in Miami, and he played at UNLV too. So that's kind of how I knew him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I ended up reaching out to him, and he's like, yeah, come. I talked to the coach. Come to Tulsa. Like he'll give you a trial. So I was like, all right, cool. I got that lined up. And then I spoke to some guys here in the Lights too, and they told me like, oh, there's this coach that's coming. He's like, he's looking for players to go and try out. He's like, maybe you can get a shot there and try it out. And I'm like, all right, for sure. So I ended up coming back to Vegas, and
I didn't take the Tulsa.
No, so I come back to Vegas, right, and then I fly out to Tulsa. And at Tulsa, the guy tells me that he really likes me, but at the time they're not signing anybody. So he tells me to come back in January. And I'm like, all right, for sure. And then I ended up doing the whole Lights thing too, and the guy really likes me too. And so I'm like, damn, what route do I go to? And because this was like maybe October, so it was already the ending of the USL season. And once January hits, I'm in a dilemma of whether I should go to Tulsa or if I should go to play with or try out with the Lights. And because the Lights was here, I ended up making the decision, obviously, to stick with the Lights. And so I kind of let the Tulsa opportunity pass up. And
popular team out here.
Yeah. So I stayed on trial with the Lights for a long, long time, and they were telling me like, oh, you're gonna get signed. You're gonna get signed. Like, just give it some time, and you're gonna get signed. And so 2 months passed, 3 months passed, and I'm like, man, what's going on here? And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should wait, as bad as it sounds, for somebody to get hurt, because that's when the next man is up. Or maybe I should wait when somebody gets suspended, and then, maybe I can go up next, or whatever the case is. So as soon as somebody would get hurt or somebody would get suspended, like 2 days later, there'd be a new motherfucker coming. And I'm like, damn, like, crazy. When am I going to be that next guy? You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm still waiting, and it keeps happening. It gets to the point where it's like 6 months, and I'm talking to my wife, my girlfriend at the time, and I'm like, you know what, like, I'm not really liking this. I'm like, I don't like that I'm putting too much time into this, and I'm really not getting much out of it. And I'm like, and I don't really think I want to travel much anymore. I want to just spend more time here in Vegas and be with my family, because I felt like during my 16, 17, 18 years, like when I was 16, 17, and 18 years old, I really didn't get to see my brothers, grow up, my younger brothers. I felt like I missed a lot of that, and being around my parents and my other brothers too. I felt like I didn't want to miss it too much no more. I'm like, you know what? I feel like I should just really push it away and start focusing more on the other things that I really like. And so I really enjoy giving people the confidence, not only on the training side of things, but just on their looks. I feel like beauty is a big thing for me. And I feel like I love it when somebody goes and gets a haircut and they get a smile on their face. Like, I feel like that makes my day, Yes, sir. Or when somebody gets a training session and they feel like they just became the best player in the fucking world, or they got at least 1% better. Like, to me, I did my job. If I end up making the difference in just that one person after they've been with me for an hour or so, I think I really enjoyed that. So I ended up saying, you know what? I'm gonna put this soccer stuff to the side. Not to say that I don't love it, because I love it to death. Like, that's something I really wanted to do. Like, since I really started to focus on it on a higher level, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna push it off to the side and pursue the beauty side of things and the development side of things. Hence how Fit Phase started. Fit being for the personal training, and fades being for the haircutting. Yeah, so
hey,
that's kind of how that came about. And I mean, thankfully, I'm very grateful for the following that I've gained, obviously with you guys and with Hera right here and with Juan over there helping us out, and just with my brothers and them knowing their people, and just me kind of being able to gain the respect that I was grateful to gain just with me playing soccer the way that I've been fortunate enough to play soccer. So yeah, now that's kind of where I'm at now.
The rest is history, huh?
Yeah.
The rest is history, man. What a story, man. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you, man, because, you know, not only do you make us feel good, right, about ourselves, but you mentioned something very important. You want to be a certain type of mentor, right? You want to be a certain type of person that when they think about looks or whatever, they basically know that they have a person to go through, or if they want to be trained or whatever the case is, they have someone to look up to, man. So I really appreciate you for that, man. And as you continue your journey with barbering and hairstyling, man, I know you're going to do great. What made you get that dream, essentially? What's your dream? Let me reiterate myself. What is your dream, your ultimate dream with barbering and hairstyling, man?
Man, there's so many paths that this can take me to. I think that's what I really enjoy about it, is that it can kind of branch off to so many different areas. And so I think ultimately I want to be the best at both, right? I want to feel the best. Like, I feel like I don't need really anybody else's reassurance to go and tell me like you are the best. I feel like I want to feel my best, and that's exactly why I ended up switching over from my barbering schooling to going into cosmetology, because I feel like I just needed more knowledge other than just doing the barbering, and not to go and knock on the, or say something bad or belittle the barbering side of things, but I just feel like doing the cosmetology side of things, I felt like I exposed myself into more challenging situations that I wasn't used to, like working with the longer hair, doing the thermals, doing things that I wasn't used to. And so now I feel a lot more confident, and I feel like I wouldn't have been able to go and get into that situation or felt like that unless I ended up pursuing that route. So I think ultimately I want to be able to go and just make my own thing, you know, make my own brand, and help people feel their best, in both aspects, in the training side of things and in the beauty side of it.
That's awesome, bro. We gotta get this guy trained with you.
He was, and he was becoming the next prodigy. And then
let's talk about this guy for a second, man. Don't
throw me under the bus.
Not to horn your toot or anything, man, but seriously, dude, you have so much potential and you still do. It's just, you know, you got to be disciplined as much as you like. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one big thing that you mentioned that I liked, was you always worked hard, and that's why people liked you and how you played. And that pertains in life. There's people with talent out there, but it's not what talent you have, it's what you do with that talent. Mm-hmm. You know, you could be the most talented person I know, but how hardworking are you? And I think hard work will beat talent over and over. But yeah, man, you should.
What's your take on that? Do you think hard work beats talent?
I think so. I mean, I think in certain situations, for sure. I mean, obviously talent is cool to have as well, but I think for everything, to me, I think everything's got to have its balance. Like, I feel like once you find a good balance for both in anything you do, I think you really got it covered. I feel like it's the same thing. Like for me, for instance, when I do my business side of things, like I've got to find the time that I can make as much money as I can, and I got to find the time to keep my family happy too. Like being with my daughter, being with my wife. Like if I just think about getting the money, then where does my happiness really fall at? You know, like as much as I love being able to kind of support myself financially and support my wife's needs and my daughter's needs and do all that, like when do I get to spend time with my daughter and really teach her what I think is right from wrong, you know? So I feel like in that sense, I don't think I lost my train of thought now, but I just feel like, I mean, to me, I feel like I want to be able to go and just use my time very wisely, find that good balance, and make sure that I'm not spending too much time and I'm not spending too little time. So that way it feels like I'm doing things at my own pace and not at somebody else's pace. You know, whatever I can control, I go back to that. Whatever I can control, I'm going to make sure it stays within my own reach rather than letting somebody else kind of tell me what to do and tell me how to do it. And nothing wrong with that, but I feel like there's a boundary there for sure. Like, I think that you really should take a hold in what you feel like is best for you, for sure.
Hell yeah, bro. You're a coach, right? And what do you think is the biggest factor with a lot of soccer players nowadays that don't take it to the next level?
I think honestly it's the work and the belief. I feel like a lot of the times, like, people expect to get something out of not putting in the actual work. It's just discipline overall, right? And I think that's probably the best way I can go about it. I think the discipline side of things is the best way to do it, because soccer can get really repetitive, just like any other thing in the world. Like, barbering can get really repetitive. Like, you're doing the same fades all the time. You're doing the same moves all the time for soccer in any sport. But it's a matter of you going in there and still wanting to do the same thing you just did the other day.
That's crazy.
So I think that for a lot of people, it's just being disciplined enough to say, even though I worked on this yesterday, I'm going to work on it again today and keep working on it, so that way I become the best at this, and then move on, or maybe tweak it a little bit and kind of make it your own. You know what I mean? And so I think discipline is the biggest thing for sure, because it's very easy to kind of get veered off into a different direction when you start to see more like the downfalls or the negative side of things. So I feel like once you stay positive and see like, oh yeah, I want to work here because I know this is what I really like and what I'm really passionate for, then you don't care if you did this shit 10 times. You don't care if you did this shit 20 times. Like, you're going to still give it the same amount of effort as you did that very, very first time. And so I feel like once I start losing that fire for anything that I do, I think I kind of start to push it away. But I haven't lost that fire for me being as a trainer. I feel like I always want to become the best person that I can be to try and mentor the people as best as I think that I know I can, with all the knowledge that I've gained throughout all the experience that I've had. So, and it goes the same way when it comes to barbering too. Like, with all the years that I've put in with cutting my brothers and fucking up some clients and doing this and doing that, like, I feel like I still treat it as the very first time. Like, I'm very like conscious of just people's like how they feel about themselves. I want to make sure that people feel like happy about themselves, you know. So I think I've always liked the customer service side of things, and so I feel like that's what I think benefits me the most, is that I really try and hear people out. Like, if I fuck up, I know I'm gonna fuck up. I'm gonna make a mistake eventually, right? Because I'm human.
Mistakes,
yeah,
but it's what you do with that mistake.
Exactly. So,
and I see where you're saying where people lack with their skills and their things for their ultimate goal is they don't have the discipline to continue to want to learn and continue to want to go ahead and fix those mistakes.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have said it better. You got to go ahead and continue to give it your all and learn day by day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, bro. And with that being said, bro, I really appreciate you for coming to join us today on this podcast and spreading motivation, man. This has been a hell of a podcast, man. Mm-hmm. And I want to go ahead and end this podcast real quick with letting you know that if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Go get it. It's waiting for you. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you again, bro. Thank you for joining us.
And again, go follow Fit Fades LB on Instagram.
Yes,
you ever need a haircut, if you ever need to be trained by a trainer, this is the guy to do it.
This is the guy. He does it all. It's like a handyman. All right. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it.
He has a big butt.